Hello there. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, a show trying to make the world safe for ADHD. And got I'm going to try to make this interesting, but it has a tendency to appear dry. But it's sort of the how do we determine if something's true or not? Okay. Scientists work with this all the time, and technically, I'm a scientist. Okay. You are constantly evaluating data. You're also constantly evaluating statements, and increasingly, and I'm not sure if it's because of the internet or what, but it seems like everybody on the planet thinks they're an expert at something with absolutely zip proof of it. And indeed, the surprising to me is that it has hit the area of medical and health research, which is some of the most well conducted research we have. And yet we're having people make absurd generalizations about, oh, this doesn't work, or something weird in the environment causes that, this, that, or the other, without any proof at all, without any research that supports this, without anybody actually evaluating the statements, and that is absurd. And it's embedded in our government, and we're getting ridiculous sort of claims about the causes of different disabilities and that sort of thing. Everything's being blamed on the environment, even though, as most of us in the ADHD world know, there is real strong evidence that ADHD is a genetic disorder, and that it has to do with neurotransmitters in the brain that are slightly different than for neurotypical people. So how do we get this? How do we get to the, we have people saying they're experts without any obvious training in the area that they're claiming expertise in. Okay. And I'm, as a clinical psychologist slash neuropsychologist, there are some pretty rigid standards, to maintain my state licensed, to maintain my ability to practice, bill insurance, all those things. I have to, prove that I am being continually educated, and that I ascribe to certain code of ethics and so on. And yet I have people out here in the internet world just saying stuff that doesn't make any sense and that is going to be harmful to people. I'm scared to death as what's going to happen with this Maha report. I talked a little bit about that last time, but before I get totally flustered and start yelling and screaming, which, I have occasionally been known to do. But let's look at how do we know something? Well, first of all, there's a thing called the correspondence theory that suggests truth is something that corresponds to reality. It reflects accurately the way things are in the real world. Okay, that's the ideal. Okay, but how do you prove that things are like that? When you look at evidence, first of all, you evaluate the source. Where's it coming from? Who's saying this stuff? Do they know what they're talking about? Is there any reason to believe they know what they're talking about? So you've got to do that. And what's the consistency of the evidence? Is there research support? Are there lots of journal articles that say this is what the cause of, say, ADHD is? Is there any other support for what they're saying? And then is the evidence, is there enough there that you can actually draw the conclusion that they're drawing? It's, like, for instance, there's a huge difference between a working theory, This is something that a researcher will have. I think it works this way, and I'm going to test it and see if it actually does. But there are other people who just are guessing what's causing it. Well, pollution causes a lot of problems, so maybe pollution is causing ADHD. There's not any real support for that, and therefore it's nobody's ever tested it against that theory. I take that back. There have been some attempts to look at that, and nobody has been able to say, oh no, it's definitely that we're having all this pollution, and that's what's causing people to have ADHD. The world was a lot cleaner place when people still had ADHD. So you have to test your assumptions. Okay, what is the science saying? There's just a guess, just an opinion, or is it a real live explanation for what's going on? And that's important to know. And the other thing is, a scientist knows he's going to make mistakes. He or she's going to make mistakes, knows that there's no such thing as complete truth. So there'll be some exceptions. And a true researcher, a true scientist is open to the idea that he may have to change the way he defines, he or she may have to change the way they explain a certain something or other. Okay, if we find out that Tic Tacs are causing, people who eat a lot of Tic Tacs have kids who have a lot of ADHD, we'd have to look at that. And we don't have to say, oh, well, that's obviously it. We would have to look at it. No, down. I'm not saying anything bad about Tic Tacs. Okay. But you have to be open to revision. If you're not open to revision, you're probably not thinking scientifically. You're not thinking logically. You have some sort of prejudices, basically, is what they are. Strongly held opinions without any substantiation. And so you have to be willing to look at the research, and you have to know enough about how research is done to recognize if something is well done or not well done research. Okay. Research is complicated. Okay. You start off with just opinions. Okay. That's the lowest form of assumption about why something is or why something isn't. Then the next lowest is probably case reports. Okay. Now case reports are just, well, it's not much different from your next door neighbor saying, boy, I put my ADHD kid on high dose vitamin C and it's made a world of difference. Okay. You could say, oh, that's interesting, but it doesn't make it truth. And that doesn't make it scientifically proven. You don't have any clue about this child. Perhaps he never ate an orange in his life. And therefore, he's going to be responsive to he'd probably been deprived of vitamin C, so he's when he gets some on board, it's good, but that doesn't mean that vitamin C cures ADHD. You see, there's a difference there, and then you've got to be able to hold on to that thought, because the forces of ignorance are out there, and they're getting stronger every day. Okay, so opinions. Okay, any cop will tell you that the worst kind of information or worst kind of evidence in a criminal case is observers, people who have actually seen what's going on. Because when you're in the middle of a crime scene, you're probably scared to death and you're not registering very well and you're not really a reliable witness. So witness observations are suspect all the time. The same thing, your neighbor down the street telling you, oh man, you got to try vitamin E or whatever it is. But that doesn't make it science. That doesn't make it true. And you need to understand that. Okay. Just because 2 or 3 people in your area maybe do the same thing and it seems to work for them. Well, that's an interesting hypothesis. Check it out. But don't start believing it is, absolute truth, because it is not. Case studies, it worked with 1 kid, it worked with 2 kids. Those are the lowest form of research. Okay. Then, to get really high level research, you have to have you have to have a lot of people. You have to have control groups. You have to have people who are getting whatever the treatment is. And you have to have long follow-ups. You can't just do it, 6 weeks. Oh, we did it for 6 weeks and we got these great results. No, you've got to do it for a length of time, something that makes sense in the world. So, excuse me, still fighting this cold or whatever it is. But the control trials are better than just, what the heck, we just found a bunch of people who do this and they get good results. There are some kinds of research that's the best you can do. It is god awful, horrible to try to figure out why some people in some parts of the world live longer, noticeably longer than other people in different parts of the world. And, you can study it and study it and study it, but you're not going to be in the position where you can actually do the manipulations that would let you know definitively what's causing that extended longevity. When you do a controlled study, you have a hypothesis, you have reliable ways of measuring outcomes. It can't be just the observations of an expert, although that's pretty good. But you ideally would have some blood test or even a psychological test that shows a difference. Okay, so you have to have an objective measure of outcome, whether it's good or bad or happy or sad or whatever. You also have to have what's called a control group. You have to have some people who are getting the treatment, have the condition and are getting the treatment. You have to have other people who have the condition and aren't getting the treatment. And ideally, you'd have another control group of people who don't have the condition or get the treatment. And they're big enough groups that you can draw conclusions. They don't have to be huge, because if it's a strong result, it'll show up with a smaller group. But if you're going to say the whole population is going to start taking this medication because I say so, well, then you darn well better have a way of proving that you have treated a large number of people. And, the people who do this kind of research, it is very complicated and very time consuming and pretty darn expensive too. And that's why when we take money away from basic research, we cause ourselves difficulties because we can't prove stuff anymore. We cannot draw reasonable conclusions. I have no idea what's going to happen with all of the money that's been taken out of research. And I'm not going to say that all research is really equally important. Some of it is like, oh, really? Do we really care about the graffiti on the men's room wall versus the woman's bathroom. I mean, or stuff like that. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but there has been research done in those areas. But we don't need that. We need to make sure that the basic research that's helping us live longer, that's developing cancer cures, that's improving our quality of life, all those sorts of things, that those are funded. And it's important that you won't have truth, and we have a bunch of people who seem to think that their knowledge of science has something to do with their bank accounts. And it's just not true. And it's hurtful. It hurts a lot of people. I know a lot of people out there in ADHD land have been very concerned about this MAHA report and what the implications are going to be. I mean, are they going to make it harder to get stimulant medication? Are they going to make it harder to manufacture stimulant medication? What are they going to do? And what's the effect going to be on us? Because we're out there in the real world, and we're having troubles already. I mean, I know lots of people who have been on stimulant medication, or their child has been on stimulant medication for a long time, and they've been having real difficulties getting it. And I think most of us don't really. Well, I have no idea why that would be, frankly. Any more than I know why all the drugstores in my area are going out of business. I don't know what's going on, but I know what's happening. And I'm trying to keep this from being a rant, but scientific research is the search for truth, period. And it's one of the great contributions that has been made to civilization, that we understand a lot more about what exactly is happening in our world, and what its effect is on us. And that's important, and that's done because people do research. People who know what they're doing do research. It's the difference between knowledge and opinion. Okay, everybody's got an opinion, there are all kinds of crude things that we say to kind of make that statement, but everybody has an opinion. But science is supposed to be about knowledge, and medicine is applied science, that we use it to help people live more satisfying lives, stay healthier, and so on. So if it's just an opinion, it's just an opinion. And you have to consider the source. Is this person who's making these statements, does he know anything about what he's talking about? Or she? Does he have, any reason you should consider him or her an expert? Any reason they should be able to affect your child's treatment? And, what we're seeing in the Billionaire Boys Club that we've got running in Washington now is that we got a lot of people saying stuff and they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, that MAHA report was so screwed up. And if a sophomore did an evaluation like that, of that information, he or she would flunk because there were so many errors, just basic errors. Some people who obviously don't know anything about what they're talking about. And we just can't be making decisions that affect people's lives that way. Okay, I am Dr. Terry James Gingras. My website is terrygingrasphd.com. I've been doing this for about 10 years now, and I don't usually get this flustered about a bunch of anything, but This is a big one. This is affects all of us in this ADHD world, and probably a lot of people who think they're not in the ADHD world. But okay, I do a lot of coaching. If you're interested in that, you can sign up on my website, and we'll have a chat and see if we like each other enough to work together. And we'll catch you on the flip side. And hopefully this cold will be done for by then. And we will catch you next week. See ya.